Hello! Welcome to my channel, Edible Thoughts Makes. My name is Stephanie, and this channel is where I share with you my works in progress, finished projects, things I'm cooking up, books I'm reading, funny things my kids may say. My hope is that as you watch this episode and the previous episodes, that you find some inspiration along the way. This is episode 102, and it is the middle of March, year 2023, and I am coming to you from a snowy day in Minnesota where I live with my husband and our 2 young children. Weather has been hovering in the 30s for our highs. At night, it still gets into teens and 20s. This is Fahrenheit. But yeah, it definitely feels like there's a little bit of spring in the air, even if everything is still covered in lots and lots of snow. It's definitely warmer. You know, if it's hovering in the 30s and not in single digits or below 0, then I feel like, it's warmer, right? I was talking to some other mom friends of mine, and they were saying how they had to get the kids to wear a jacket to go out to the bus stop and like remind the children to please bring their, their sweatshirt or their coat to school. And it's very, what's the word? I can't think of a word, but it's very Minnesotan to feel like you don't need all the layers as soon as it's above freezing. And it's relative, right? So it just feels that much warmer when the wind isn't like biting at your face and when you can breathe without like catching on your breath. So it just feels a lot warmer. I remember thinking, yeah, you know, once it's above freezing, it's shorts weather. But now that I'm older, I definitely don't think that. We are not tired of winter yet. When you live somewhere that it snows 6 months out of the year, there's no way. I mean, you can still be sick of winter by middle of March, but I feel like it's not really in your best interest to feel like that because you're still going to have snow for at least another month. And so I personally love the snow. I love winter. I love just bundling up. I love wearing wool. I don't mind that it's still snowing in March and April because it's expected. And what am I going to do about it? You know, if I don't like it, I'm just going to grumble and be annoyed and frustrated and mad all the time. And what's the point? It's not like I can control the weather. And I do. I love the snow. And when you get a fresh blanket of snow over snow that has been like melting off and on a little bit or just getting kind of that like sloshy look to it, it's just so beautiful to have a fresh blanket of snow. And yeah, I love it. I don't mind shoveling. I mean, I will say, and I think I mentioned this in a previous episode maybe, but snow at the end of April feels much less magical than snow in like October, only because by then you're like itching to grow stuff and to plant things. And I remember one year our tulips started coming up because it got, you know, kind of warm and then it snowed again. And so there's that saying, April showers bring May flowers. And I tell my kids, it's April showers froze my flowers because they were snow showers and not rain showers. But anyway, we'll see what happens this year. Everything is definitely under a thick blanket of snow, which is just nice. And I don't mind it at all. And so we'll see when the tulips start coming up. I'm not actually sure how many tulips will come up this year because last year a bunch of them got eaten and dug up by squirrels and bunnies and maybe deer. I don't know if the deer go after our tulips because even things that are marked as deer resistant or rabbit resistant, I feel like aren't really. So not sure how many tulips will come up this year. A couple of years ago, we had a really great tulip bloom. Oh, it was just beautiful. Pink and purple ones, and I think we had some red ones in there. But yeah, a lot of them got dug up the year after by squirrels and stuff. So anyway, we'll see what happens. But welcome if you are new here. I think there are a lot of new faces that have joined us recently. So welcome to this creative space. The way I generally format these videos are I have a vlog in the beginning, which you will have seen already, and usually a few minutes, you know, with glimpses of cozy scenes maybe from whenever the last time is that I recorded to now. And then we start with an intro, and I usually talk about the layout of how these videos are for anybody that's new. I usually talk about the weather because that's what I like to do. And then we usually go into finished projects and or what I'm wearing, works in progress, and eats and reads section where I might share like new recipes that I've tried, books that I have recently finished or that I plan to read. And then sometimes there's a food for thought section that I'm floating around because I feel like sometimes I add in stuff at the end of the eats and reads, and if you decide not to watch the eat and read section, you might just miss it. So I may or may not have a food for thought section at the end, which generally will have like a question or discussion topic, if you will, that if you want to participate in, you can. If you don't want to, totally fine. Yeah, so I think that about wraps it up. I've added a new section, no, not new section. I've added a new addition to this channel, and it is called Maker Musings. And if you click on the playlist tab, you'll see the Maker Musings episodes there all compiled together. They don't have to be watched in a particular order because how I'm doing it is by topic. And so they might be questions that have been asked a lot, so they are in one spot, which is easier to link people to than it is to like search for it in a past episode. And they're just, you know, topics that I have on my mind and things that I think about a lot. If you've been following here for a while, you may know that I think a lot. It always makes me think of that book. Is it called Owl Babies? I can't remember who the author is, but it says something about how all owls think a lot or something. And we are a big fan of owls in this household, but yes, I think a lot. And sometimes I, share those thoughts, and maybe some of them resonate with you. Maybe they spur new ideas, or I don't know, just things to think about. And I am very big on boundaries, and so I just ask that people respect my boundaries, and I don't list them out particularly anywhere, but I'm a pretty private person, so even though I have a public YouTube channel, there are some things that I prefer to keep private, like my children's names and their faces, and it's a personal choice for everybody, so this is not saying one thing or another for other people who choose differently. This is, for me personally, some things that I, set boundaries on. And I feel like I have to say this up front because somebody always asks. I sew a lot, and I've been sewing since I was a little kid, and I make a lot of my own project bags. I do not sell them, and I do not make any tutorials, patterns. I don't even follow a specific tutorial or pattern, so everything is slightly different, and I don't plan on making any patterns or tutorials. There are plenty out there on YouTube and Google, so I just recommend you go there to look for things if that's something you're interested in, or if you don't sew, there are plenty of very talented bag makers out there, so I recommend you go support them. If you have access to a local fabric store or sewing shop, they often have classes that teach you how to sew things. So there are tons and tons of resources out there. I recommend you go check them out. I am not a resource for making project bags or selling them. So just getting that out there because there's a lot of new viewers here, and I always get asked it. And oftentimes I still get asked it even if I put out the disclaimer. So I'm not really quite sure why, but yeah, just putting that out there. No hard feelings. It's just how it is. I include links to designers and makers and things like that that I talk about in the description box below this video, and that's where you'll find the notes to things here. Sometimes you have to click on an arrow, it'll say show more or something like that. So links to everything will be there. I do use Ravelry for my project pages, so that will be linked there as well. And usually I will link to the episode that I talk about that project in as a work in progress and as a finished project. So if you are ever looking for more details or discussion, or to see it like in action and close up and stuff like that, I recommend checking there if Ravelry is a site that is accessible to you. What else? All my videos include closed captioning, so click on the CC button there for captions. YouTube does provide auto captioning, and then I go in and edit things because there's a lot of words that sound the same. Are those homonyms? Homonyms? I think so, right? Homonyms? That sound the same but are spelled very differently, and so I need to kind of fix that so things make sense. There's also speed option in YouTube in case that's something that is new to you. So if I talk too fast or too slow for your preference, you can adjust that. Yeah, I think that is it for all of that. Let me just check my notes here. Yeah, I think so. The previous episode, episode 101, had a ton of finished projects in it. I had a flurry of things to finish in February, and so that is what I did. And so today, there's one more finished project that I'm just not going to talk about today, and I'll probably save that for next time. So I'll talk about one today, and you may notice that I'm wearing one as well. It is one that I talked about in the previous episode, but I said I would wear it on the next one. So we will do that for finished projects, and I have a bunch of new cast-ons, and I think some of the works in progress maybe I had shared previously, but it would have been maybe almost a month ago or so. But yeah, so today I have peppermint tea in my mug. So yeah, grab a beverage or two and a snack or two because we have a few projects to talk about today. The first project I'd like to share with you is the one that I'm wearing. This is the Academic Vest by Ellie of Skein Knits. She is a Norwegian designer living in London. And I have always wanted a colorwork vest. I've always wanted to knit one, I've wanted to wear one, and now I have one, and it's delightful. This was a challenge for me as far as just learning a new technique, not in the way that it was hard, because it actually wasn't difficult. It was more of a mind block, if anything. Although maybe not even that. I just didn't do it yet. So it is knit bottom up. You start at the ribbing, and then you do this color work, and it's really cool because you knit basically a tube with steek stitches, and then you steek the armholes and the neckband, so you cut those open, and then you knit in your ribbing. Well, you reinforce your edging, and then you knit in your ribbing. But this was so much fun to knit. I talk about it more in the previous episode 101, so if you want details, I recommend going there about yarn and colors and all of that stuff. It is a sport weight, and I knit mine in 100% Andean wool by Pearl Soho in their Good Wool base, and I love it. It is so lightweight. It is a non-superwash wool. I feel like the colorwork fabric came out really nice. It didn't have any puckering, and my tension was really even, and it was really nice to work with in hand, and I just love the colors that I pulled together for it. And so far, it has been so easy to match with anything that I have in my wardrobe. I shared several photos of it worn on my Instagram. That is linked in the description box below this video. It's edible.thoughts.makes. You do not have to have an Instagram account in order to look at somebody's public Instagram grid, profile, timeline thing. So if that's something you're interested in checking out, you can go there. If Ravelry is accessible to you, I've also shared those images on there as well, so you can check that out. But I just love it as a layering piece. Today I have it on over like a merino base layer, and I have corduroy pants on in this corally pink color, which I feel like draws out the kind of pinky orange and the light pink in here. And yeah, it's just such a comfortable lightweight piece to wear without the bulk. So I can still put on my winter coat without an issue. My core is warm, and it's just like a fun statement piece without like being in your face. And it's, to me, it's more of a classic traditional look, but I don't feel like it has to look, not that classic or traditional has to look frumpy, but I just feel like it doesn't have to look old necessarily. Like you can still look, this is not coming out the way I had it envisioned in my head. Like vintage can look cool, right? And I feel like there are vintage trends that have come back, or maybe they never left, but, and what's vintage is questionable, right? I'm sure what I wore as a kid is now also vintage, but whatever. Things just kind of like cycle through anyway, right? Decades come and go as far as like what people wear. And so anyway, I just feel like this vest is so classic, and I feel like the colors I chose can go with various seasons. I mean, I'm not going to wear a wool vest in the summer, but I feel like for all the other 3 seasons, I can easily wear this and just change up whatever I wear underneath as a lighter or darker color, depending on my mood. But yeah, I really like it. So again, if you want the details, it's in the previous episode. The next finished project I'd like to share with you is one that I finished for my husband. This is the Muscle Bra hat by Isolde Teague. I've probably knit a dozen of these hats by now. It is so nice to have on the go. Basically, you knit a tube, you start on one end, and you knit to the other end. And when you start, I've found the crochet pinhole cast on to be the easiest for me. There's lots of different ways to do it. As someone who learned crochet knitting probably around the same time, like maybe when I was like 6 or something, I feel like crochet comes very naturally to me. And in crochet, you often do these like magic, is it called a magic circle or magic? I don't really remember what it's called. But essentially you're doing the same thing and then just transferring it off the crochet hook onto your knitting needles. And so you start on one end, increase, it tells you in the pattern, it's a paid for pattern, so I'm not giving you details. But as you increase, you're gonna measure your gauge. And that's how you know how many increases to follow. Yes, you will have to pick out your needle size. The pattern's written for multiple gauges, and then once you get to your final stitch count, then you just knit in the round. So I'll start out on Magic Loop with like 32-inch or 40-inch circulars, and then I'll switch to a 16-inch circular to do my round and round part, and then you knit all the way to the other end, and the other end you do the same kind of crown except you're decreasing. Now, if you're like, I don't want to do this like increase crown pinhole cast on situation, if you know your gauge, just do a provisional cast on for your final stitch count. It doesn't even have to be in the center, especially if you're not going to knit it all in one color. Maybe you're knitting a scrappy version or whatever. Just do a provisional cast on and do it to one end and then do the other end. Yeah, I feel like that's fine as long as you know your gauge, right? I knit my husband's hat following the adult medium size. He has a pretty big head, but he likes his hats to fit snug. So I did the adult medium, and he does not like a folded brim, which I've knit him a bunch of hats in the past with a folded brim, but have since realized that he doesn't reach for the ones that are too long because he likes them snug. He does not like a slouchy beanie. And just the way his head shape is, the way he folds it up is not the same way that I fold my hat up. So he'll either like flip it just in the front or like have it kind of like bunched by the neck. In any case, I decided to subtract a couple inches from the pattern measurements based on what's being folded up or not, so that he doesn't have to fold it at all. So the yarn I used is... So the yarn that I used is from the Farmer's Daughter Fibers Sock Squad from December 2022. This colorway is 2 Medicine, and it is the Highwood sock base, which is an 80% superwash merino, 20% nylon at 400 yards for 100 grams. And the yarn is super soft and I think will wear really well. Here is what I have left. I have about 23 grams left, which is perfect to use as contrast in socks for like heels toe cuffs or some color work if I want. The mini that came with it is this beautiful light gray color. I don't know if it's even gray. It's kind of gray. And there's a little bit of variation to it, and it's so beautiful. So that is that. I used 84 grams total, and the way these hats work is that you tuck one end into the other, and since I used fingering weight yarn, you essentially end up with, you know, the double thickness, which you would think be like a DK weight. But I think it's warmer because your stitches are smaller, so there's less air gapiness between the stitches, and since it's doubled, assuming the stitches aren't going to line up exactly, right? So you're going to end up with even more air blocking, wind blocking, and it's so nice. It's really soft, it's cushy, and it's comfortable. Maybe I'll put it on for you. Oh, you know what? I don't know if I can because I have a bun. Well, that might kind of work. Anyway, we have very different head sizes, and I have my hair up in a bun. So, here it is. Oh, it's so comfy. It's so soft. I love it. But yes, this is his hat, and I think he'll still be able to get a little wear out of it. He runs warmer than me, so he doesn't always wear a hat when he goes out, even if it's 30 degrees. But I think it's a nice springy color, and it's not too super thick, and yeah, I think he's gonna get a lot of good wear out of it. It's this beautiful blue that I can't really describe. It's kind of sky blue, like a warm sky blue, and it's got subtle speckling, which is nice because my husband doesn't like anything particularly loud or standout-ish, and so I feel like the subtle darker blue speckling is really nice, and it's super even, but there's still like some tonality to the color and a little bit of interest, and you can tell it's hand dyed, and it's very even. The speckling, and I feel like the darker lighter parts are very even, so there's not any pooling. Yeah. I just love how it turned out. And thankfully, so does he. He tried it on, it fits really well, so that's a good thing. Let's go on to works in progress. I might have 6 of them to share with you today. Clearly, I am not a monogamous knitter. I prefer to have several different projects on the go in different capacities. So some may be in stockinette round and round, some may be garter flat, some may be sweaters, some may be color work yoke, some may be something else. Anyway, all different needle sizes, generally. I just feel like it exercises my fingers and my brain differently, and as someone who is always making, I feel like there are different types of projects that suit different situations, and some are easier to take with me some places. As a mom with children who have activities and things like that, oftentimes I'm waiting for stuff, and there are some things that are just easier to take out with me. Like, I'm probably not going to bring out a colorwork yoke to work on for 30 minutes waiting for something, right? But I can do a vanilla sock, I can do the ribbing of a hat, or something like that. Something that's much easier to carry in my backpack, my tote bag, whatever the case may be. Oftentimes I'm working on stuff as my kids are getting ready for bed because they take a while. And sometimes they take a while to fall asleep and need mommy or daddy sitting there with them. And so I have a neck light that I'll sit in the room and be knitting, or in the hallway or something like that. So yeah, I am somebody that making is part of my life 24/7, and so having different projects that fit into different pockets of time most efficiently so that I can make in a way that's not stressful and best uses my time is something that feels very fulfilling to me. And it's not necessarily about being most productive, but rather, I mean, I guess if you count using your time wisely as being productive, but I feel like you can also use your time wisely by just resting and not doing anything. Like, I feel like then most people would find that as not being productive, but I would say that's still using your time well, right? Because we do need to rest, and not working is okay. For me personally, I feel like just making something with my hands allows me also to have time to quiet my brain and process information, and I can still parent while I'm working on something that I don't need to be counting stitches or paying attention to details, you know? So I can still pay attention to my kids and still knit and do something that I enjoy doing, and yeah. Anyway, so long story short, for lots of works in progress to share with you. And you know what? I also really appreciate being able to jump with the inspiration. If I've got something that I'm excited about and I can jump on that, like that's really nice to be able to do. And so I'm going to run with it. If you've been here for a while, you may know that I have done a lot of testing for independent designers, and this year I've decided to slow it down. I've tested a lot of patterns in the last several years, and it does bump down other projects that I maybe want to make, or that I have already yarn, paired up with to make, or that my kids are requesting something, and so that I can drop everything and just make whatever it is that they've asked for, because you know what? It can be fleeting. What if next year they don't want me to make anything? I mean, that's okay too, right? I don't need to be overbearing. But yes, if my kids request certain, a project, socks, sweaters, a cardigan, I want to be able to do that and not have some other deadline looming over me. And so I do talk about testing patterns in a Maker Musings. So if that's something you're interested in, you can go check out that video. I talk about the who, what, where, when, why, hows on testing, and yeah, it might be of interest to you. So now that I've gotten all of that out there, let's get into my first work in progress. I feel like I am talking a mile a minute. Okay, first work in progress I'd like to share with you is a long-term one. It is the Half and Half Triangles wrap by Purl Soho. It is a free pattern, and since I haven't shared it here in a little while, I will go over kind of some of the details on the project, if you will. If you are someone who enjoys knitting a sea of garter flat, you might enjoy this project, but you might not. It is a long-term project. So this pattern is written for 2 sizes, big and bigger. The smaller one is 190 stitch cast on. The larger one is 260 stitch cast on. The measurements and all of the dimensions are on the Purl Soho's website, so check that out if you want to. I have found a stitch count in between to work well for me, 230 stitches. Everybody's gauge may vary, so what works for me may not work for you. Do not use my yardage or stitch count or whatever as I don't really know, as a rule or whatever. And don't come back to me if you run out of yarn. This is just what works for me. So the pattern is originally written for Purl Soho's linen quill yarn, and so that's what I've knit my other half and half triangles wraps in. This is my 6th one. No judgment, please. And this one I tried a new to me base. It is Purl Soho's Quartz base. It is also fingering weight, but at 420 yards for 100 grams, 65% merino wool and 35% Surrey alpaca, and it is super soft. It is not super wash, and this is the color Lavender Moon, and this is going to be my 2nd color. It is a heathered lavendery light gray color, maybe? I feel like in certain lights it could look a little more lavender, but in other lights it might look a little more gray. But it's a very soft lavender. So if you are someone that is not into purple, which is not me, I like purple, but if you are someone who doesn't like purples, you might like this one. So the first color that I'm using is denim, what is it called? Gray denim, and that is this color. It is a heathered grayish blue, and I really love these 2 colors together. So I name all of my half and half triangles wraps. This one is called Dawn and Dusk, and it's reminiscent of those colors, right? As the sky is waking up, as it's going to sleep. It's that time in between, and I really like that magical time. I feel like that's a really special time, dawn and dusk. I cast on this project Christmas Eve 2022. My goals for these are all arbitrary deadlines. Ideally, I'd like to finish them within 4 months. May or may not happen, and that's okay. So I knit mine on US 3 or 3.25 millimeter needles, which is the needles called for in the pattern. And this is where I'm at. I'm on the 2nd skein of the 1st color. So it is knit in 2 big triangles using short rows. Pattern uses wrap and turns. I use German short rows because that's what I like. I do have a tutorial on my new YouTube channel on how I do my modifications, so if that's something you're interested in, you can go check that out. And I have these on 47-inch needles. Usually I use 40. I'm not, minding the 47. I think it's fine. But this is a Knit Picks one, and I don't love their cables. I feel like their cables, they are not memory free, and so they kind of twist and turn sometimes. And I know you can put it in boiling water to get it to relax, but sometimes it goes back. So I can't obviously put it in boiling water when I have all my stitches on here, but it's okay. It's not bothering me too much, but I might go back to the 40-inch Addies that I was using before. I found the ChiaoGus, which are usually my go-to needle of choice, as too sharp for this. Not because the yarn is splitty at all, but because with the repetitive motion and the way I knit, I feel like sometimes it's just too sharp. Sometimes I do, push on my needles, and with that continuous exact same motion hundreds of times, I feel like it was just too sharp. So I needed something that was a little blunter, and these Knit Picks needles are pretty blunt. So are the Addies that I have used. I don't love this cord, but it's okay. All my stitches are on here. I'm not going to try to switch it out because if I drop anything, it will be very annoying. I don't know how I would fix a dropped short row like a double stitch, so I'm just not going to chance it. Not worth it. So last time I shared this with you was probably a month or over a month ago, and I have that stitch marker down here. It is a crescent moon, and it is by Maria of Woolen Forest. I absolutely love her progress keepers and stitch markers. They are often inspired by nature and have like a gemstone, but I am going to bump that up now that I've shared this with you. And being a long-term project, what was I going to say? I don't plan on sharing this every time that I sit down and chat, just maybe once a month. So next time that I share this project, I think I should be on the second color. So that'll be exciting. I find this so soft. I do think that it's all subjective. So when people ask, oh, is linen quill soft? Or, what do you think about the quartz base? Do you think it's soft? Well, yeah, I think it's soft, but if you're like allergic to alpaca, you will not find it soft. But yeah, I feel like it's drapier than linen quill. You can see how floppy it is. The skein just kind of falls over. And it does feel different in hand while I'm knitting. I mean, the fiber content is different. It's very soft and very drapey. I am curious to see how it's going to block out. Garter usually stretches, so we'll see how that goes. There's like a beautiful fuzzy halo on it. I'm not sure if it'll show up on camera. But yeah, I am so excited for this project. Initially, I was hoping it would be done by the end of April, but seeing as how the end of April isn't too far away, I'm not sure that's going to happen. So we'll, see for May. Our last risk of frost usually isn't until middle of May, so I feel like even if I finish it early May, I'll still have a chance to wear it. And, maybe the summer evenings will still be cool enough that I can wear it, so we shall see. Okay, next work in progress I'm going to share with you is my Love Note sweater. This is the third or fourth time I'm knitting this, I think. Yes, the fourth variation. And of course, I have knit none of them the same because that's how I do things around here. I like to knit the same pattern over and over again if it is something enjoyable for me. And if I have another idea on how it can look, then I will do it. And that's what I like to do. So this Love Note, I am knitting with Purl Soho's Linen Quill in Bright Flamingo. Yes, it is as bright as it looks. It is like a fluorescent coral color, pinky orange. Yeah, definitely fluorescent. I don't think I told you the fiber content of Linen Quill earlier, but it's 50% fine Highland wool, 35% alpaca, and 15% linen. 439 yards for 100 grams. And again, people will ask, is it itchy or not? I think it's a personal thing. Yes, I can feel like a slight, like it's not going to be like superwash merino, slippery, slick, woolly, not slippery, slick, woolly. What am I trying to say? Like smooth, slick feeling. There are definitely like pieces of something sticking out. I don't know if this is the linen, but there are bits of things. And there's a slightly heathered look to it because the linen doesn't take dye the same way as the alpaca and the wool. And I'm holding it with a discontinued yarn from Knit Picks called Alpaca Bloom that is lace weight. It is called Champagne Peach. And it is a 91% superfine alpaca and 9% nylon. And so they're both non-superwash, and this is what I'm holding together. Now, funny story about this Bright Flamingo color. I had initially ordered some in, I think, 2021, and I was like, this is too bright. I can't do this. It didn't look as bright online, and it looked more pink than orange. So I actually returned it and exchanged it for a different color. And then it kind of grew on me. I saw other people's projects using it, and I was like, maybe I'll give it another chance. So I ordered one, and then I just stared at it for a while, and then I was like, okay, maybe I'll get another one and make a sweater and just hold it with something so that I can tone it down, but I still get the essence of it. And they are different dye lots, but I find, so far I've found their dye lots to be pretty consistent. I mean, the color between dye lots is pretty consistent. Might not be true for everybody, so don't come at me. I still recommend that if you're going to buy a sweaters quantity, you get it all at once if possible, and so that you don't have different dye lots, because you just never know. Because it isn't hand dyed, chances are it'll be closer, but it may not. So I've held the two yarns together, and I love how it turned out. It has become this like dreamy marled fabric that is just what I wanted. It's not as bright as it on its own, but it's still got the essence of it. It's still got the vibrant cheerfulness, and then the fuzzy yarn tones it down a little, adds some texture interest, visual interest, and I just love it. And I feel like the lace does not get lost, which is something that I wanted to show off in this garment with the fabric still. I feel like sometimes if you use maybe a super highly variegated yarn, the lace can get lost. I am not somebody that gravitates towards lace patterns. In general, I just don't enjoy knitting lace. It's different for everybody. I don't find it meditative. I'm not very good at fixing things that are messed up in lace, and I feel like it has to line up just right? So yeah, it's not my favorite, but I do enjoy this yoke pattern because I feel like it's not a ton of lace, and yeah, I've knit it a few times. So for this one, I'll do it. I really like it in here. So you'll see that the sleeve stitches are on hold on short cables, so I will be attaching needles to this to knit my sleeves. I haven't decided what length of sleeves I want yet, if I want them tapered, if I don't want them tapered, so that's why I haven't done that part yet. I just need to think on it. But I did knit it longer than the recommendation in the pattern. The cropped length was super cropped. The regular length was still cropped, and so I went past that. There are short rows in the pattern written for the bottom hem, and I decided to keep it straight. There are not short rows written for the neckline, which I did add in. So I followed the numbers from the Ranunculus pattern by Midori Hirose for the short rows in the back. And I think the fit is really nice. Another thing I modified was, instead of doing a provisional cast on and then knitting this top later, I just worked that part of the pattern backwards. There's nothing wrong with a provisional cast on. I find it to be just fine, but with this specific fuzzy yarn held with this yarn, I find it really difficult to pick up stitches neatly. Like, this fuzzy stuff catches on stuff, and it's just not a very smooth or enjoyable process. So I was like, I'm not doing that. So I just cast on from the neckline, work that part of the pattern backwards, and since I've also knit this a few times, I know what to expect and what I want. And so I feel like if you don't, having that provisional cast on and then picking up and then doing the neckline can be actually really helpful, because you can adjust it more. So if you want a closer neckline, if you want a wider neckline, like, you can do more of that, versus if you start out a certain way and then afterwards you decide you don't like that, it's going to be a little more challenging. It's not undoable. It's not impossible, but it's just not as flexible maybe to do that. Anyway, I really like how it is. I like the length. My hip bone is here, my belly button is here, so it goes a few inches past that, and so I think it's going to be super wearable. If I want to wear it with a dress underneath, I can use a belt to kind of tuck it. If I'm wearing it with linen pants, I think it'll look nice that way too. I can do a tuck in the front. Because of the lace, I will be wearing like a tank top or long sleeve under it, depending on the weather. And yeah, I really like it. I'm really happy with how the fabric has turned out, and it feels super light, and it's going to be soft and warm and just so delightful. So I think this one, sleeves usually don't take me very long to knit, and so I'll probably have it done, I mean, in April for sure. So that'll be perfect to wear for springtime. I cast on the adult extra small, which should give me about 6 to 7 inches of positive ease. I did match gauge, and I'm using US 10 or 6 millimeter needles. Ribbing, I used US 7 or 4.5 millimeter needles, and that is per pattern. The gauge is 16 stitches for 4 inches, which is awesome. So 4 stitches per inch, it flies, and it's so much fun to knit, and I really enjoy it. Okay, so last time I shared with you my sheep camp sweater by Jennifer Berg, and I decided to knit another one. So I had an idea. So the first one is oversized, a little slouchy, and super comfy to throw over jeans, over leggings, really over anything. It's got a super deep yoke, so whatever I'm wearing underneath won't get bunchy. And surprisingly, it was actually okay wearing it inside of a winter coat. I didn't think it would be because of how deep the yoke was, but it actually was okay. And I'm guessing it's the fabric, because the fabric is not stiff at all. I knit that first one using linen quill held double, so I'm guessing it's the fabric that keeps it from being super bunchy going into my jacket. So I wanted to cast on a second one. And this one, I'm using the same size A. My gauge is, once again, off, but not as off as the first time. So with this gauge, I probably won't come out with as much positive ease as my first one. I think my first one ended up with like 10 inches of positive ease, and I cast on the smallest size. I knew it was going to be off, so that was not a surprise. I talk about it in the previous episode, so if you want to find out more, go check that one out. This one I am using knitting yarn, and the yarn support is coming from Purl Soho. It is their 100% merino wool. It is a new to me yarn, and it comes on 219 yards for 100 grams. So I feel like that is like a heavy DK or even light worsted. The pattern by Jennifer Berg, who's also known as Native Knitter, is written for DK weight. And if you look at the DK weight yarn she used in her sample, I find it to be like a lighter DK weight. I can't remember exactly what it was, but I thought maybe it was closer to 240 yards for 100 grams. So that could explain some of the differences that I'm getting. Again, it's information I knew about going into it. I made an educated decision. I knew what was going to happen, so it was fine. I'm personally someone who doesn't feel like a pattern is written so that you have to follow it exactly. It's there to give you information, and that's how something will turn out. And if you change it, yes, it will turn out differently. Well, possibly turn out differently, but that's on you, right? And I'm totally okay with that. If you've been here for a while, you know I am constantly modifying stuff, and not because the pattern's bad or saying anything about designer. It's just what I'm making to best fit either my body or my vision, or however way it's coming out to be. So yarns I am using, the colorways are Sandpiper Brown for my main color, and it's like a warm, light, sandy brown. And I'm pairing it with Heirloom White, which is a cream. I believe it's undyed. And I find this cream to be kind of a cooler cream. I don't feel like it's like a warm cream, if that, I don't know if that's showing up on camera, but that is how I read it. Here are the two colors together. Hopefully it's not getting too blown out here. I'm going to put the cream on the other side, away from the window light. There you go. Now it's not getting blown out. I will say the Sandpiper Brown is not the same as I saw on my screen when I was looking at the website. And I know everybody's computer settings are a little bit different, and so that's just a risk you take when you order online, right? So I feel like it's a little bit slightly darker and slightly less warm. It's still a warm sandy color, but just not the same. That being said, I'm still very happy with how it's turning out. So I'm going to show you what I've got. Still working on the yoke. I've steam blocked it a little, so it's very smooth fabric. Here it is. Oh, it's so pretty. Now, my inspiration for this color combo are like hazy winter mornings, snow-covered pines. So in the pattern description, Jennifer Berg says that these are arrows to represent breathing in and out. I see pine trees. But right now, for some reason with this color combo, I also see like milkweed. I don't know why. Or thistle from these brown parts coming up. Anyway, maybe it's spring on the brain. But I did my neckline differently. It's a rolled neckline in the original pattern, and I decided I wanted to bring it in more. So I did an old Norwegian cast on, using the same needle sizes per pattern, I think, which is a US 7 for the ribbing, and then US 6 for the ribbing, US 7 for the rest of the sweater. And I knit several inches in 2x2 rib, then I knit to my cast on, and then continued per pattern. I did a few extra rows of short row shaping in the back. Pattern does come with short row shaping in the back. I just did a little extra. And oh, I think it's just beautiful. It's a little more subtle of a contrast, although still lots of contrast. And I just think it's beautiful. I have decided to shorten the yoke just by a little bit, so I cut out one of the repeats in the color work section, and then I'll just continue. And the yoke is pretty deep, and since my gauge is slightly off, once again, I just didn't want it to be super deep. So it'll still be deeper than some of the other sweaters that I have knit, but maybe not as deep as the first one that I made. Oh, but I just love it. I love how it's looking. And the next time I share with you, I will probably be at sleeve separation. And yeah, I'm really happy with how it's looking. I love this neutral addition to my wardrobe. I think it's going to be so easy to throw on like cool summer nights, really any season, since it's like a neutral color. I don't feel like it says a particular season palette, if you will, and I feel like it's going to be easy to throw on over jeans, over linen pants, over a dress, really over anything. The length on this one I'm going to make shorter. The first one I knit pretty long, like I think it went like down to half my butt. This one I think I'm going to do high hip maybe, and then sleeves. Thinking about even doing a 3/4 length, but I might do the tapered version for this one. The other one I just knit even all the way down and then cinched it right before the cuff. So this one I think I'm going to tapered sleeves. I haven't decided if it's going to be full length or 3/4 length. And that's part of my decision on that too, is partially because of the yarn too. The yarn is more structured than the linen quill. I wouldn't say it's like super structured, but it is a little bit more structured, and so with that I'm just making different decisions about how I want this sweater to turn out. Okay, we are going on to 3 smaller projects. This one is my socks that I am knitting using the 2023 Farmer's Daughter Fibers Sock Squad sock set for March. And I don't think I've shown it yet, because the last time we chatted, I don't think I've talked about it yet. So for March, well, this whole year, it's based on different wildflowers. So here is the calendar. And as someone who loves to garden and who loves flowers, I just had to do this monthly subscription. So it's a monthly yarn subscription, and you don't know what you're gonna get. But there are 3 bases that rotate throughout the year, and there are different wildflowers that they are inspired by. So for March, it is the California poppy, and and it also includes their pollinators. So it's the California poppy and is it minute pirate bug? I'm guessing it's minute, not minute pirate bug. I don't actually know. So I'm going to show you the yarn, the main color. is this lovely yellow orange. And the base is the Highwood sock base, which is an 80% superwash merino, 20% nylon. It has a great twist. This yellow orange does have some slight, very subtle speckling in it. And each month's yarn comes with a mini skein. The mini is usually unnamed. And this is a very dark emerald green. And I have decided to knit the midwinter socks, which I have made before, also in the Farmer's Daughter Sock Squad yarn. And I think I knit that one in 2021. So something I'm doing a little different is I'm swapping the main color and contrast color assignments because I wanted the flower to be in the main color because it's the California poppy and I wanted the poppy to be the yellow orange. I did not want it to be green. The pattern is Midwinter Socks, and it is the third version, which has the flowers on it. And let me hold it up to show you. And I'm following the size small, using US 1 2.25mm needles for the main fabric, and then I used US 2 or 2.5mm needles for the color work. So here are my socks. So I cast on the cuff with the main color, and I did it slightly longer, I think, than the pattern. And then I swapped my main color and contrast color for the leg. I love how the color work turned out. It is so pretty and such high contrast. And I think it looks like the poppies because the poppies have 4 petals. Oh, I just love it. Then I changed out the heel. I did a shadow wrap short row heel. Pattern calls for an afterthought heel. I enjoy knitting the afterthought heel. I don't enjoy wearing the afterthought heel. I've also changed the rest of the leg and the foot to be like a ribbed pattern. So I did a little bit of the leg after the color work section before starting the heel. I have on here Progress Keepers by my friend Maria of Woolen Forest. Let me see if I can hold it up here. So one has a 4-leaf clover and a green gemstone on it. Other one has a leaf and a golden colored gemstone on it. And then my stitch markers are from Reshma of Hello Lavender. They're polymer clay. One is a leaf and one is a yellow rose. I like matching them to my project. I think that's part of the fun. Hopefully they're focusing. So the shadow wrap short row heel, I follow the tutorial by Denise of Earth Tones Girl. And a note on the shadow wrap short row heel. So for some people, if they have a really high arch, a short row heel might not always work for them. For whatever reason, I feel like this shadow wrap short row heel gives you a little bit more room. But if you're not finding it to be enough room, I would say use it with a ribbed pattern or like a textured sock that might give you more elasticity. If you do it with like a vanilla sock that has like a stockinette sock that has a lot of negative ease, you might not find as much give. But either don't do it for as much negative ease or add in ribbing, then I think you'll have a little more give. Another option is to add in a gusset. So the Descent Socks pattern also uses shadow wrap short row heel, and there's a gusset instructions written in with that heel. So you can go check that out if you're interested. I have knit it before and they fit really nicely, and it was easy to do. So that's an option. And again, the Descent Socks are a free pattern. The Midwinter Socks is not a free pattern. It is by Summer Lee Designs. And again, I've modified it slightly, but I used the same color work chart. Again, just flipping the main color and the contrast color. So I love these socks, and I am looking forward to finishing these in the month of March. Okay, let's go on to 2 hats, and these are both new since the last time we talked. Okay, this one is for the cutest little niece ever that I don't get to see very often because they don't live close by. But she is super cute, and she's in that phase where she starts copying everything everybody says, and she has dimples, and oh, I just want to squeeze her. Oh, she's so cute. But I will get to see her this summer, so I'm really excited about that. Meanwhile, I am knitting her a new hat. This is yarn I have remaining from a pair of socks that I made. It is the Farmer's Daughter Fibers Zootown colorway from 2022 Sock Squad in June. This is also the Highwood sock base, which again is 80/20 superwash merino nylon. This is like a cream base with very vibrant speckles in like electric blue and bright purple, chartreuse and pink. It is just super fun and summery and will be great for a toddler. I have 51 grams and I will use up probably all of it. Hard to determine how much I will need for the crown, but I'm going to do my best to estimate that. I am following the classic ribbed hat pattern, and it is a free pattern by Jake Canton for Purl Soho. I am knitting the kid size, which is supposed to give me a finished circumference of 12 inches, and it's ribbed, so it's super stretchy. There are 5 sizes. I knit them on US 3 or 3.25 millimeter needles on a 16-inch circular, and it's just knit one, purl one all the way, and the crown looks kind of cool. It's kind of got a spiral decrease, and I really like how the yarn is pooling here in this hat. I don't generally like pooling on a garment because I just don't like color splashes in like strange places because you don't know where it's going to end up. But in a kid hat, it's super cute. So there's this like purple spiral thing going on here, and then this chartreuse spiral, and a little bit of this pink going on here. I just adore it. And I am holding the yarn double because it is a DK weight pattern, and holding 400 yards, 400 gram yarn double, I feel like is more like worsted weight, because if you divide it in half, it's essentially 200 yards, right, for 100 grams. So it's going to be extra squishy, and maybe, I haven't measured my gauge yet to compare it to the pattern, but again, it's 1x1 ribbing, so there's a lot of give as far as sizing goes, and we'll just see what happens. I don't think I have anything else to say about that. No deadline for it, since it's already mid-March. I guess if I don't finish it for this spring, it won't matter because I can just save it for Christmas. So I keep a bin of gift knits throughout the year. I don't like saving all of my gift knitting to like October, November because that's just stressful. I do it year round. And so like for kids, I'll knit it a little bit bigger so that, right, it should still fit by the end of the year. And so then I'll just tag it for who it goes to, so I don't forget the size or whatever, all that information, and then I'll put it in the bin. That way, when November rolls around and I'm starting to wrap things up, I know what I have. I don't have to stress as much about it, and it's still enjoyable, right? I don't want to get to the point where I'm like resenting gift making because I never have to. So I need to be able to do it because I want to. And so making stuff year round for my family gives me that opportunity to make things when I want to and still enjoy it, and then have less stress when it comes to like the season of gift making and gift giving and stuff like that. Okay. Last work in progress. Thank you for joining me on this work in progress parade, if you will. Yeah, I'm really excited about this one. So, I am a big fan of linen quill. I just love how it knits up. I love how it feels in hand. I really enjoy wearing it, and there's just so many colors. If I remember to, here on the screen, I will show you either a screenshot or like, what do you call it, screen grab or something? I don't know the terminology for anything. But when you record on your phone, like to see what something looks like, I might not be able to do that. I might just show you a picture. But of all the colors that Purl Soho has in linen quill, it is amazing. So like I've said, I've made several half and half triangles wraps in the past. I've also made a lot of sweaters using linen quill. So I have some colors. And these are all colors that I've bought sometime between 2021, 2022, and yeah, I think those 2 years. So I have cast on a new pattern that was just released by Purl Soho. It is written by Taylor Harris. It's a free pattern, and there are multiple sizes, 5 sizes. I cast on the adult small, and there's a folded brim that's so it's like double thick, and then there are stripes, and there's like wider of the main color stripes and then like thinner contrast color stripes, and the samples are all knit in 2 colors. I decided I'm going to use multiple colors because I want to, and so my main color is Pale Mushroom, and this is remaining from my first Sheep Camp sweater. It is a warm taupey gray color with a little heathering to it. Now I have 47 grams left of this, and calculating out yardage for that and looking at the yardage estimated in the pattern, which I don't know what percent they put in as like a cushion. So some designers will put in like a 10% buffer. So I don't know if they have that in there. I guess I could ask. Too late. Anyway, I am using Lavender Opal, which is a very close color, on the inside. Lavender Opal is like a gray with a hint of lavender. And so since that, here, I'm going to hold it up next to Pale Mushroom so you can see how close they are. They're pretty close. But like Lavender Opal is much cooler. So I am starting with the Lavender Opal since it's on the inside, and even if you flip the brim up, you still won't see it because it's on like the very inside. Pattern calls for provisional cast on, and then you fold it together and knit to that provisional, or unpick the provisional cast on and knit to those live stitches. I'm not going to do that because I've done so many fold over cuffs, and I just do my cast on loosely and it's fine. I've never found it to be tight. Now if you cast on tightly, I would recommend doing the provisional cast on, or cast on with a needle size that's a little bit bigger so that when you go back to it, it's not super tight. So I just cast on Old Norwegian cast on, and I'm using US 2.5 or 3 millimeter needles instead of US 3 per pattern because my US 3 is in use. And also because based on the cast on stitches and just knowing the other hats that I've made, I feel like the adult small with a US 3 is going to be too big, and the kid size will be too small. So to get something in between, I'm going down half a needle size, and I think I should be just fine. So I'm casting on for the adult small, but using a half a needle size smaller. And this is where I'm at. So with the stockinette, all stockinette, I don't believe there's any purling. And I've just started one of my stripes. And I'm not sure you'll even see this stripe, because again, it's like pretty far in, but I'm doing it because I like stripes anyway. And it's just because no one sees it doesn't mean it doesn't matter. If it matters to you, then it matters, right? So I'm going to show you all my contrast colors. So I'm going to do stripes in all different colors of, well, mostly pink. So the first one here is Peony Pink. It's a very pale, soft pink. And I don't necessarily remember the order I was going to do them in, so it might change. And for the number of stripes, I think I'm going to have to repeat some of them. I'll have to figure out that part later. Then here I have Pink Pop, which is as bright as it looks. It is a fluorescent highlighter pink. It's a cool toned pink. Then I have Peachy Pink, which is like, I would call this a soft neon. It's like a melony peachy pink. And I think it looks brighter in person than it does online. But that's, again, I don't know how my screen is compared to other people's. This is Rhubarb Pink, which is like a vibrant magenta. And then here is poppy red poppy. I have the tag here. I don't remember exactly. Actually, it's stuck in here. I'm not going to get it out. It's like an orangey leaning red. So I'm going to hold them all up if possible. And I just love them together. Whoops, that did not work. Let's try again. One more time. Here we go. Here are all the pinks together. And I think it's just going to look so cheerful and so springy, and the fiber content will make it very springy to wear. And I'm just so excited about it. I love it. And I think the peony pink with the lavender opal is looking really nice together. Again, even if it's on the inside of the hat, that will never be seen. I don't care. It's like having your own little secret. Okay, so that's just an ongoing project. It'd be nice to have it done to wear in the spring, but arbitrary deadline. If it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, that's okay. That is all the projects I have to share with you today. As far as eats and reads go, just one quick thing about the eats. I don't have a picture because we ate it all, and the rest my husband took for lunch. But I had made this pasta recently that was so good. No recipe, but what made it so good was that I was able to use tomatoes that we had harvested from our garden last summer that we had frozen, and to have that burst of flavor and that burst of summer in, I would say, the dead of winter. I know it's March, and for a lot of people it's not winter anymore, but it's still winter here. It just tasted so good. So all I did was, these are like little cherry tomatoes. There's Sun Golds, there's Rapunzels. I don't remember what other ones are in there, but so good. So what I do in the summer is once I pick them, I wash them, I dry them, and lay them out on a baking sheet, the ones with sides, freeze it, and then bag them all up. And so they don't all stick together. It kind of sounds like marbles, actually. And then when I'm cooking them in like a sauce, I just literally dump them into the pot and cook them down, and they get kind of jammy from the natural sugars. I usually have caramelized onions in there, a little butter, a splash of white wine. So good. I think I added baby spinach to it too at the end, just to let it kind of wilt some, not to like super cook down. And I added it to pasta. We had some pasta with like, I don't remember what the shape was called, but it's the kind where there's like grooves in it. Not rigatoni. It was like very interesting shaped, but it catches the sauce, and like clumpier sauces too. And oh, it's so good. So good. I wish I had a picture to share with you, but I don't. Sorry. I did finish reading the book When You Trap a Tiger, and I'll have a picture of it here on the screen with the author, and I loved it. Loved it. I don't have a synopsis to give you. I did talk about it some last time, but two sisters and a mom and a grandma, and talks about different relationships. It talks about life stuff, Korean folklore, and modern time, like mashing together, and I just love that. So good. It was such a good read. I highly recommend it if you like stuff like that I just mentioned. Yeah, I really enjoyed it. I don't have a next read right now, so we'll see what I pick up. I thought I put some things on hold at the library, but now I don't remember what they were, because I feel like I was really far down on the wait list for it, so I just kind of forgot. And it's better that I just forget about it, so I'm not like constantly checking where I am on the wait list. But now I don't remember what it was. That will be to be determined. I do have a question for you, food for thought. And that question is there a new skill or technique or maybe type of garment or accessory that you are looking into making? It could be this year, could be just in the fuzzy future. I never really necessarily had on my mind like a goal to do like steeking, but I wanted to do it. Like it wasn't like a set like 2023 goal, this is what I wanted to do. And yet like that was one of the first projects that I started for this year, and I mean, I'm so glad I did it. I can foresee myself doing a lot more versions of this vest in the future. I have a cardigan that I want to knit for my kids that includes like a colorwork yoke, that there's steeking involved, And I feel like it just opened up a lot of options, and I'm really excited about that. There are definitely techniques that aren't up my alley, and I'm totally okay with that too. And I feel like that's something that we, like when we get to a place where we're like, I'm okay with not doing that, that can be also freeing. Because there are just certain techniques that I'm just not really interested in, and that can be just for now. 5 years from now, I might change my mind, and that's totally okay. We are human beings, we change, we evolve, we grow, we whatever. But like currently, I have zero interest in brioche. I feel like I almost felt like I had to learn it at one point several years ago, but I've gotten to the point where I'm like, I don't like anything fussy or that's hard to fix. And the only brioche I'm getting close to is brioche bread. Yeah, and I'm totally okay with that. So, is there anything that you want to try or get, more comfortable with? Or I'm just kind of curious, like, what are you working on? What are you interested in working on? What do you think might be something that you want to tackle? So that is the food for thought for today. So with that, cheers to being creative. I hope you are doing well. I hope you're taking good care of yourselves and your loved ones. And yeah, I'll talk to you next time. Take care.